All right. We are live for another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience, and I'm really excited today to have Scott jumping on with me. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Lewis. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, this is cool. Scott and I have, I think we connected through Apex, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we found that we had a mutual friend in Matthew, the Iceman. And then we jumped on a call, and I've been following you, and I saw you present to Mitch Smedley's plumbing group.
That's right.
On the topic of delegating and creating SOPs. And I was like, man, I've got to get that in my group. How can we make this happen? So we got this set up. So this is going to be, it's going to be a little bit different of a format. I'm going to really let Scott talk and run the show. And, you know, as soon as we get a few people live here, I'll say it again, but you guys can drop comments, drop questions, and he's very Q&A style. So we'll kind of run through it. But Scott, if you want to give us some background on you and why people should listen to you, and then we'll dive right in.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well, I'm really excited. And seriously, if you guys have comments, please drop them. I love to be interactive. And my favorite thing is to go the direction that you want me to go. So, but excuse me, I have, man, we'll go way back. I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years. So, you know, formally educated with a master's degree in education, taught private or public education for 13 years, but was really bored with that early on. So I started a brick and mortar business very early in my career. And that was kind of the birth of my entrepreneurial journey. I did full-time educating and ran a 3,000 square foot, 5 full-time employee bicycle shop in my very early years, and did a lot of things really wrong in business. Of course, it was actually successful, but the crazy thing about that, Lewis, was 5 years in, and I realized that and a lot of people relate to this, I realized that I was putting everything into my business and nothing into my family. And I had a 5-year-old son, and I had like a 2-year-old son, and I barely knew my wife anymore, who had always been my best friend. And so in 2009, I found a buyer for my business, and on his way in to sign the papers and give me the check, which was going to cover all inventory and everything, he called me and said, I changed my mind.
No way.
Yeah. And I had already made the commitment that I was going to close that out so that I could refocus on my family. I chose that over I chose education over business, which was a horrible decision. But anyway, I want everyone to understand that I sacrificed that business so that I could save my family. But because he didn't come with the check, I had hundreds of thousands of inventory that had come in on 90 day and 120 day. And instead of, I tried a 1-day liquidation, but I literally overnight took on $350,000 of debt. Literally overnight. I was able to
the opposite of what you're hoping to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I started selling things for pennies on the dollar on eBay. And, but it's the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I had some success in that brick and mortar business, and I went on through the years, actually had a lot of success in an MLM, which I had no idea what that was. I did direct sales and got up to the 0.02% in that, at the top 0.02%. So my wife and I were making incredible income, which was insane. We had no idea what we were doing. And since then, I don't do that. And there's a lot of story back then, but that launched me into the opportunity to spend money doing other things. I retired from teaching, and I kept doing the thing that everybody thinks they want to do. Built wealth, built income, built a great business, and then stopped. Either sold it, walked away, thought I would retire. And every time I just got incredibly bored. It was horrible. I was just bored. Because, you know, when you start your own business, you do everything. You are the person who does everything. You're the person who creates every process typically. And
we kind of thrive on that chaos, right?
Oh, that's what makes us, right? I mean, that's like the fuel in our blood. At least it was for me for so many years. So I've done e-commerce business. I've owned a gym, like a service-based business. And here I am today. And the thing is, $350,000 debt I took over time, I paid off personally, all of it. And I've either sold or sold. Yeah, I've sold my businesses and kept moving on. And I recently have a mentor, you may know him, Sammy. Sammy's in Apex. And he asked me to tell him what my biggest, my biggest regret was in my business over the last year. And I toiled for that for it was a week between calls. And I came to him and I said, look, Sammy, I know this is probably what you want to hear, but every single failure, every single dollar I've gone in debt, everything that's gone wrong, I wouldn't change for anything, because every single one of those things brought me to where I am today. And if you would have said, 5 years ago, even 4 years ago, Scott, you're going to have a virtual assistant company, I would have been like, that is boring. That is stupid. I have no interest. But here I am, absolutely in love with what I do, because I get to talk to entrepreneurs like me who have gone through the same things, 22 years of this with multiple different businesses. And here I am. I couldn't have it better by design. And so that was a long answer, but that's where I'm at today.
I love it. I love it. We've got some people jumping on. Mike Hurst out of Ontario saying Merry Christmas, and Damian Smith in the group as well saying big up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And guys, like I said, we've got some more people on here now, but if you guys have questions as we go through here, ask Scott. He's kind of giving us a little background there on his business woes and what's led him to here. So you've got a virtual assistant business, but you don't call them virtual assistants. You call them virtual professionals.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about what made you get into that, and then we'll dive into some of, how that ties directly into delegating and creating SOPs and creating a business that doesn't drive you crazy.
Absolutely. So what really got me into this was my own insanity of being an entrepreneur, doing everything. So, I kind of talked about my history. And there was a point where I was contracting, and I was contracting for a fitness startup. And it's actually how I met our friend that we both know, Matt Schnard. But I was contracting for a fitness startup, and they basically created a product and had 8 clients. And then they hired me to do all their sales, customer service, customer onboarding, everything. I basically was I'm an integrator. So it was developing their business. Right. Mm-hmm. And I came in and got them to 182 recurring clients and created their whole onboarding, coaching, everything. And I was just doing a lot for their company. And then I started a podcast, and I was speaking to the owner, who kind of mentored me through time management. Cause he said, Scott, you're always working. You never stop working. I'm like, hey, I'm a problem solver. And he said, well, that's problem number 1, is that you are identifying with being a guy who does everything and fixes everything. And that's how I'd been for my whole life. I think that's what makes us entrepreneurial. We want to fix things, and we're good at it, and we just do it. Yeah. And I'm like, well, okay. He said, here's the deal, man. You need a virtual assistant, because I started a podcast. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to keep up with the podcast and do all this work. He's like, you need a virtual assistant. I go, okay. He said, but here's the problem. I'm like, what is that? You'll never be successful at it. Everyone fails getting a virtual assistant. They don't work out, but really, if you could make it work, it's really what you need. So what I realized later is he was telling me that because he knew I would take the challenge on. So I went down a wormhole. I did master classes, got coaching. I did everything to learn about VAs, and I interviewed everybody I knew who had used VA and failed or succeeded. And then I got to the point where I had learned so much about it. And I took my psychology background, which I have a degree in psychology, and my education background, and put all that stuff to use and hired a VA and trained him and her. And within like a week, she was taking like 20 hours a week of my work off of me. Lewis, within 3 months, I had 4 full-time VAs. And they were, what I realized is all the contract work I was doing, there was so much work that I didn't have to do.
Mhm.
What did I like to do? I like to talk to our clients. I like to do sales calls. So everything else I was offloading. I learned how to create SOPs. I learned the systems for systemizing.
Was that hard to do as an integrator? Because I'm not an integrator and I find that hard to do, but I was curious if that was hard for you to do.
It was very hard mind shift for me because of that I can do it best attitude I always had. And most visionaries and integrators have that, is like business owners. I'm the one that can do everything the best. So once I figured it out, though, it's kind of like this light bulb came on. It's like, wait a minute, wait. Here's what I did wrong. Is instead of offloading things and becoming more powerful in the things I was really good at, I just kept taking on more and more and more. And so what happened is that I had these 4 full-time VAs, but I was taking on full-time work myself. So now
Nothing was changing.
I'm doing like literally 200 hours a week of work for this company that I'm consulting for and not getting more money. It was a flat rate. Dumb. But I felt so good because I was solving all of their problems. So I'm trying to speed this up. I was running a few masterminds in the fitness industry, and all the owners were like, Scott, this is great. You keep telling us to get a VA, but we've not succeeded at it. We tried. Just let us use yours. So I'm like, okay. So I taught them how to offload work, and they started do it. And 1 week I collected enough money to pay for one VA for a month. I was like, oh, wait a minute. And so a business was born from that. I then had to do, this is a big pivot point for me for understanding SOPs. I then gave notice for my contract work. I said, look, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, but I'm going to build out SOPs for every single thing I do. So I had my team and me, 2 weeks, just head down. Everything became a operating procedure. Everything was standardized operating procedure. And in 2 weeks, I gave those to the company, and they're like, what in the world? I'm like, well, that's what I was doing. So Lewis, they hired 5 full-time people to take my position because I was just doing all this stuff and offloading. And that's really like when the big picture was like, one, dumb me for being this guy that kept filling my time with more work. As entrepreneurs, we'll do that because, one, we plant our identity in work, in what we are, in our business. That's mistake number one. Us as entrepreneurs, everybody has to go through it. You'll have an identity crisis. If you haven't now, you will later. Because you've always work. You're always working, right? 2, it gave me insight into the power of leveraging others. And so I built my very first VA company. It was called VAs for Gyms. It was for gym owners, and built that up.
When was this?
What's that?
When was this that you started that?
I'm horrible. 2019, maybe 18.
So it's about 4 years on that you've been playing in the game.
Yes. Yeah, that was successful, had rapid growth. And what happened was I've just learned more and more as I've gone along. And what I have personally been able to do, so let me paint a picture for some business owners here. What I have done is realize that I needed to value my time. I needed to play the average hourly rate thing where I calculated how much money I could make and continue to lower my time and raise my salary or my how much I earn. And that became a game to me. Now, I also realized that if I work anything less than 25, 30 hours, unless I'm traveling, I'm miserable. So I know I'm going to be working 20, 35 hours a week. That's just the way I'm
You just
wired.
need to fill your time with the puzzle, right?
Yeah, I love this. I love this stuff. And so what I learned is that if I could do the things I loved that gave me energy and had the most dollars attached to them, like sales and connecting with business owners, and offload everything else, I could actually make more and grow faster. And so the beauty of this is now I literally have a system in place, and I'm helping other business owners do this, where for me personally, if I died today, my wife would connect with my team and this business would continue on, no problem, and provide for my family for years. That's the system that I built. The SOPs are really in place, that everything is repeatable, and I've hired based on the system that I've used to start replicating everything I do the way that I think, systemize it, offload it, and then continue to grow a team. So I did it with one person. She learned everything. She got too overwhelmed, took the SOP she didn't like, hired for those. That person started doing those SOPs, and we just rinse and repeat, where we have a whole organization of virtual professionals in the Philippines. I have 19 full-time virtual professionals in the Philippines who can do the work better than I can. No one can talk to the business owners, do sales calls at this point, or coach as well as me, because I love that. That's what I want to do. And so I'm going to just convince myself no one else can do it as well as me. I don't think that's true, but I love doing it so much that I don't want to give that up. So I get to spend my day doing all the things I love to do. Everything else is pushed off on the team. And the truth is that when you learn to delegate the things that don't give you energy, those people that you delegate to will come up. If you can develop the right culture, they will come up with better systems than you could have ever imagined. So my business is 10 times better than I could have made it by myself, because they have the bandwidth and the right type of mindset to do the things that I was just kind of limping through.
I love that. I love that. We're getting a lot of comments. I'm going to jump into some here. Joey, I see your comment. We'll probably get to that near the end, but I think this one is really applicable right now. I think this is Chris Benson behind the Troops Hall Facebook page here, but he said our operations manual was almost all of our SOPs. Took us almost 5 years to write it, but when it was done, it was done. Can you talk about the importance of an operations manual in regards to documented SOPs?
Yeah, I mean, it's imperative. So I just had this conversation with another group yesterday. They said, where do we store our SOPs? So let's talk about that. Number one. So SOPs, the way that I train people to do them, there should be a video. No matter what it is, there should be a video. That video then should be made into a document, and that document should have arrows, circles, explanations, screenshots, photos. And the litmus test is someone should be able to, a dummy should be able to walk off the street and perform almost any task or anything that you have in your business by following those directions. So it literally has to be dumbed down so low that anybody can do it with a general IQ. The perfect example is an airplane document to tell you how to escape the plane. If you ever look at that, it's just photos and arrows.
When the whole world is crumbling around you, you got to figure out how to get out. Yeah,
that is that's a perfect SOP. So you should have a paper version or a laminated version. And let's talk about like service industry. I'm going to go to a plumber. Okay. So you have a plumber. If you have SOPs, you should have an all book of SOPs in your office. If you have an office staff, they should have it should be digital. It should be in your project management system or your CRM where everybody can access it. You can even make it a subdomain on your website. So all your staff knows they go to, hire VP/SOPs, and they can actually find our SOPs like that wherever they're at. You could have scan codes in all, if your vehicles or in the warehouse where someone can grab a hold of them. And then you should have a physical copy, a binder that relates to that role. So, if let's say in the service industry, if you don't have an SOP on how to park your vehicle, you're going to piss a bunch of clients off because your techs or whoever's performing the service aren't always thinking about not blocking the driveway of the client. They're not always thinking about not blocking the mailboxes. You have to have an SOP in place so that if you get a call from a client that says, hey, this guy is a jerk, he's parking in front of my mailbox. This happens to me all the time and I can't get mail. And you just call them up and say, hey man, check out your SOP on parking and get that fixed, instead of sitting there telling him all the things he needs to do. So I hope I'm answering the question, but everything needs to be documented and be able to be located wherever your workers or staff is at, with multiple modalities. And they can't just be videos. If you got somebody in the field working, they can't stop to just do a video. But if they can scroll through to find the photo of that next step with the explanation, you're dialed. And spending 5 years to do SOPs, like that's what creates a business that's duplicatable and massive growth. Then you can take it to the town next door to you, and the town next door to you. Before you know, you have 5 locations and they're all operating exactly the same.
Well, and that's exactly what Joseph is doing. Sorry, it's Joseph, not Chris behind it. But he said SOPs can be written in mini nuggets. That's the way we did it. We didn't undertake this task in one fell swoop, combination of little writing here and there. And in theory, their operation should be able to be given to any new franchisee. So they just started franchising. They went through a long process on it, and they're I think they're up to 3 locations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but I think you're at 3 locations now. So yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Any other questions that you guys have, drop them down here. I love the QR code or the scan code on the trucks. That's so good. You could have that right by the key, for the parking one, or you can have that, an end of day checklist for when the trucks go in right there, wherever you hang up your keys or whatever. Can you walk through creating the process? So for junk removal is our main audience here.
Cool.
Joseph says 4/5 under development. I love it. Congratulations.
That's awesome. That's insane.
So a company is here. They've started, let's say they're a year in. They've kind of got their feet under them. They're not completely being bombarded with everything that's coming at them. How do they go about starting to create SOPs? I mean, ideally they're going to start right from the beginning, but that's not typically what happens.
No, and it's not, and everything's going to change. SOPs are living, breathing documents. I mean, even if you franchise, you have to have a way to keep those updated and your franchisees to be seeing the newest SOPs. So I am such a believer in video and paper or written document. So everything has to be recorded. So for office staff or office computer-based stuff, you need to do in Loom. So you literally turn on the Loom recording. It's a screen recording, or there's other services too. And you just start, you have, okay, I'm going to sit here on my computer. I'm going to do this task with excellence, but I'm going to talk my way through it. Okay. First I go to the domain, this window, and I open www.whatever, and you talk through it. Okay, and then I log in. The login is XYZ. Then we click on this one here, boom, and every single thing, okay, in the next step. And if you mess up, it's okay. You just say, oh my gosh, scratch that part, move on. And you record the whole process. But here's the thing, record everything you do. It's a never-ending thing. I did 8 SOP videos for my team last week, 8. And I've been doing this for years. And so record everything that happens on the computer, every step. And then that's job number 1. Now, if it's in the field, like, okay, you guys got junk removal, right? Like, great business, by the way. How you park, where you put things, how you take things, video with the phone, like literally go out for a day, have somebody that's working, say, hey, drop me off here, film them going to parking and how they're moving. If they have put out cones, how to put out cones, do all that. So you're creating all this video library. Obviously, I promote having someone like a VA. I say virtual professional for a very specific reason, but a VP or a VA go in and use that and create a step-by-step SOP. Now, I have an SOP on how to create SOPs. I'm
actually wondering if you'd be willing to share that, if I could drop that in the group after.
Yeah, it's very specific to my brand, but okay, it's the exact same process for everything. Okay. So I actually need to make one edit on it. I was supposed to do it earlier today. I just was reviewing it the other day, and I'm like, I have one edit because they're missing a link, a step on that. And I need to get that to you. So just hold me to it. We'll put it in the group.
That'd be awesome, y'all. Drop it in the comments.
So have an SOP on how to make an SOP. So ours is branded at the top with the company name. So we do SOPs for all sorts of companies.
And it sounds silly. It sounds silly. But what happens is if everybody's making SOPs, then you're going to have totally different formats. It's going to be confusing. But if everybody knows, okay, this is how it looks, this is a standard operating procedure, then it's all created in a way that everyone knows.
Yeah. The branding needs to be there. The date stamp of the latest update needs to be there. The format and the bulleting and the highlighting, everything needs to be very similar. You want the continuity all the way through, because just like was it Joseph that's been doing the franchising? Just like Joseph, when he does that, what happens is now he can literally just hand that to somebody and it looks ridiculously professional. So I would say create every SOP as if you're going to franchise, because that gives you options and it gives you opportunity to grow, just buy more or build out more locations yourself. But, then have a system for writing the SOP. And that's what's really important, is your SOP needs to be a standardized operating procedure. And people typically just do videos or typically just do paper or, documents. That's a mistake. Everything needs to have double. So even even how to unload the trailer, even how to tie the trailer down, film all of that and use screenshots and create like, here's the knot you use, or here's how you pull down that ratchet strap, or here's how you pull the tarp over the trailer. Here's how you park the trailer, make sure it's, the wheel jacks or the wheel stops are in place. All those things that are so incredibly important, because if the trailer's not set right, it could roll into somebody's vehicle or it can roll into their house. I mean, I'm just kind of making this stuff up from what I know, but those things matter. And then the thing, what you're thinking of is, what do you do over and over as a business owner is you explain the same stuff over and over and over again. And you just have to stop doing that. And you have to elevate yourself to where everything is so processed out that you get to focus, like you get to focus 100% on just how you're going to grow your business. Because that's just going to help you. It's going to help your team. It's going to help you grow. It's going to help revenue. And you know that to scale, the scale methodology, or actually to scale your business, is for every 100% of growth, your costs are only going up 20%. How do you do that? You have systems and processes in place. Because if you hire the wrong people and you don't have a system for training them, you're losing valuable money because of the time involved in it.
Huge. Yeah. Speaking of, PJ says not having a SOP or an operations manual is killing me. I closed my first location, and I think he means to say lost $400K. Because he lacks structure. He said, I'm going to reach out. So very, very key here. Now, I happen to be rereading the E-Myth right now, because it's actually, this is an applicable show for me as well today, because of where we are as a business and where we're looking to scale and grow and have that repeatable offering. What's a book, or is it the E-Myth, that you would recommend for people?
Well, that's a really good one.
Because he talks about the franchise concept and building your business as if you're going to franchise it, even if you aren't going to.
Absolutely. And that's really that's the main thing here. When we're talking about SOPs and systems and processes, that's the main thing. My favorite one to recommend, because I'm all about leveraging virtual professionals for roles that, you don't need a physical person in. Yep. One, because you get better work ethic. Two, because it costs less. It's more efficient. It's like, I can go on and on the list. In that methodology, everybody needs to buy back your time, because the problem with business owners, again, is we work and we work and we work, and we don't realize the value of our time. It has something in a calculation there called buyback rate. So you know how much you can pay your people to do things that you're doing now that makes sense for growth. That's by Dan Martell. It's an incredibly easy book to read, and it has a lot more to do with how to scale your business, how to grow your business. It talks about standardized operating procedures, but that's one of my favorites.
Amazing. Yeah. Fun fact, Dan grew up like 2 hours from me.
Yeah, you Canadians, y'all know each other.
Just happened to know this one.
He's the neighbor of another guy I had on my podcast. Mark, he lives, so that's in New Brunswick.
Mark Mowini.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark is like, he used to live like down the street from me. Now he's back in Moncton, which is where Dan grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the business owners, gym owners that I know very well is CrossFit Moncton. So like, such a weird world. I live in Texas.
That's amazing.
But yeah. So Dan is intelligent, and he has such a great way of explaining the importance of not getting hung up in the stuff that we all get hung up in.
I love it. I'm going to go back here to a question. I believe Joey brought it up. He said, did you ever have a time when you found an opportunity for solid cash flow through networking, relationship building, and then lost complete interest and motivation to execute and live up to the talking and work it took to gain that opportunity? I think he might have been referring to when you were talking about the MLM, but I'm not sure. He said, I don't know if it's me in general feeling burnout and lack of vision, or just the specific industry I ended up succeeding in to find opportunity. Joe, if you're still around, give us a shout back to clarify, but I don't know if you have any thoughts right off from that, Scott.
So I'm just going to kind of go with the identity and purpose thing on this one, because it kind of sounds like burnout happens. And so a lot of us try and place our purpose in our business and what we accomplish. And that is a true recipe for burnout, because one, your business can be taken from you at any time. I mean, there's things that can happen. And what happens when that happens is you have no purpose. Two, for me, when I when I closed my bike shop down and took on that major debt, I lost all purpose. I felt like I was a nobody. I had no identity that was outside of my business. So what I've latched my purpose on, because I love the higher VP, I love the businesses that I have that help people kind of get more leverage, right? Is don't focus on the boring stuff is what makes money. We do the boring stuff, but find a piece in your business you absolutely love and find those things that's pulling the joy from you and get rid of those with relentless pursuit. So what I would say is find the one thing that you really like about the business and take that back. Sometimes it's actually working in the field. Business owners, everyone tells them, work really hard to get out of your business. I don't know if I shared this yet with you guys or not. 3 years ago, I had a business partner and he hated working. And he told me, no, he was doing sales. Anyway, he told me he was feeling guilty because I was working, how I always worked. And I agreed to work 4 hours a week. And I did that. We had all the systems and everything built out. I did that for about 2 months. It was absolute pure hell. I hated it. It was horrible. I was doing all.
You agreed to the 4-hour working because of not making him feel bad?
I guess I was malleable. I've grown a lot since then, but I had to learn about myself, right? Like, oh, this is the 4-hour work week. This is the thing that everybody loves. And I see so many coaches out there and, hey, only work 15 hours a week and you'll be happy. That's BS. That's 100% BS. You got to know yourself so much more than that. So after that process, I'm like, what do I love about my business? Okay. Do I love the process of finding kick-ass VAs for businesses and making a change in their business? I like the making the change thing. I hate the process of doing it. It's very tedious. It's very long. It's very like
hundreds of people to go through.
Right. What I love is I absolutely love talking to business owners. Absolutely love it. So what did I do? I relentlessly got rid of everything except for joining masterminds and getting to know people without the intentions of selling to them, just to get to know business owners and learn new things and have a great time and meet new friends. I do that. I do sales calls because when I get on a sales call with a business owner, I get to listen to what their problems are and I have solutions. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a great business. I have solutions that work. And so for me, I find great joy in helping other business owners find that freedom of the crappy stuff that they do or the problems that they have. And so I latch my purpose, my joy in my business onto those things. And so I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff and I had to trust the process. So I don't know if that answers your question, but man, if there's revenue there, you can duplicate and hire out almost everything and just find the few things that you absolutely love to do. Like, look, let me go crazy here. What if you like podcasting? What if you tried podcasting? You're running a junk removal business. What if you offloaded everything, built kick-ass SOPs, hired for it, made more money, and then created a local podcast for local business owners and local residents, and that thing generated leads like nothing else, because they will. If you do it right, they will. And so what if you did that and you found complete joy in just connecting with other business owners in your town, doing podcasting, but then they're referring people to you and you're referring people to them. And before you know, you have 2 other business opportunities. This business owner's like, hey, I could use some revenue. Will you come in with me? Or businesses for sale. The opportunities are endless. Find what you love to do and leverage that to help you build your business, build relationships, do whatever it is that's going to help your business grow to a next level. Because if you're a local business, if you're serving an area, serve the area, not just in your business, but find a way to serve the area, because then you'll get more business leads than you know what to do with. So I don't know if that answers the question, but there's ways to find passion and fun in everything that you do.
That's a really key nugget. There's a lot of nuggets in there, but the last one that stood out to me was, if you're going to serve an area, serve the area. Not just with the business that you do, but be a real service to the area, and people can't help but notice you. PJ is actually doing a really good job with that, at least sharing that on social media. And I'm sure others are. But yeah, so good. Peace says we have to delegate to elevate. Joseph says, in general, men tend to identify who they are with what they do. Served 16 years in the U.S. infantry. When he was medevaced out of Afghanistan, he was lost, and so he had to realize that. So
and with the military, it's huge. With business owners, it's huge. With business owners from military, it's like, it's serious. You'll also start to notice this in yourselves and others, men who identify with their sports teams that they follow. And then their life is literally dictated by how well their team is doing and the things that, so start looking for patterns in other people, because then you'll be able to understand those patterns in yourself. And so, like, I'm going to go deep here. If something can be taken from you, it should not have anything to do with your identity or your purpose. Well, maybe your purpose, but it should not have anything to do with your identity. This is really hard, because if you love your wife or your husband, understand, I've been married 27 years. My wife could die today, and I can't have my purpose stripped. Of course, I'd be shattered, but I can't have my purpose stripped, my will to live, and everything that I tie my identity into my wife or my kids. I would be earth shattering, but I am more than them. And so if I can go to that level, think of what the business is. Business can be taken from you. People can die in a day. You could, if you identify as a runner, you could lose your ability to run overnight. You might get hit by a car, or have an accident, fall off a ladder, have an accident, whatever it is. And so you've got to go really deep and really cling on to bigger things. Like, no matter what, if I'm living and breathing and my brain is working, I can have an impact on business owners. I can have an impact on other business owners who've gone through the struggles I've gone through. And so get deep with that, really identify what things you're hanging your hat on, and challenge yourself in those areas.
I love it. Do you have some stories that you could share of people that have gone through the process with you and just went from complete chaos? Because I think there's nothing like a story to illustrate that. Obviously, you illustrated some of that with your story, but I'd love to hear some more as well.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, there's so many. Our friend Matt Schnard, he started with me like 4 years ago, and I taught him to do some time management stuff, and he's just taken it to the next level. But he went through the process of SOPs. Like, I remember the first SOP I reviewed of his, because I was very integrated into the business at that point, doing everything right outside of my VAs, doing the tedious work. I'm like, Matt, I want you to film with your phone, you driving up to your business, and how you start the day out in that business. Is a gym at that point. Okay, so he literally just talked with his phone, walked up to the front door, unlocked it, said, oh, it's a little sticky. You have to go a little hard to the left and then to the right. Like, these are the types of things, right? And you go in, and he did the whole process. We created this beautiful SOP, and I'm getting to your answer. But he has done that over and over and over again. SOPs, and started to create these systems, started to put people into place. And he now has a completely different business. He actually coaches business owners. He has a completely different business in which he is teaching others the processes to be far more efficient. It's also around purpose. All these things we're talking about, he does. But for him, it just completely systemized and built out systems. We're working with several business owners right now, and they're getting far to do what I've done. Hire an executive assistant who literally shadows you. Now, it's a little harder in the field, but my EA came on, and I teach other business owners how to do that. They're going through it now. She read every email that came in and my response to every email going out. She would listen to all my sales calls, watch all my old sales calls. I would record them. She would watch them. She came on every meeting I had. Again, hard to do in the field. Every phone call, looked at every document, everything I had built. And then she started slowly just like, hey, I'm going to start answering those emails. I'm going to start, instead of you sending out the invoice, I'm going to start doing the invoices. Hey, instead of you following up with collections, I'm going to start following up with collections. Hey, I'm going to start creating the invoices now and building out the processes for that. I'm going to start tracking all of your numbers, Scott. I'm actually going to take over this spreadsheet. She just told me yesterday, I'm taking over this spreadsheet now. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Like literally she has access to my computer through a remote, or I have a remote computer sitting right here and she does remote access, and just more and more digging into all the things I've created and taking over. And I help other business owners. We do other things as well, but I help other business owners do that. And before they know it, they can completely relieve themselves of those parts of their lives. And so, you know, when you systemize, you elevate. You really do that delegate to elevate. Lewis, I guess there's just hundreds of stories. I don't even know where
Yeah,
to
no,
start.
there's and when you say that, that's a scary thing, because we do have a purpose tied to, or sorry, we have an identity tied to some of that stuff, right? Like no one could respond to emails like I do, so you know, if we look at it honestly, we're probably looking at it when you say that, we're feeling fear of like, oh crap, I can't let go of that, and man, imagine if I could let go of that. That'd be
Yeah.
incredible, but doesn't seem possible. So I want to dive into specifically for blue collar businesses. What are some areas that you see? Are there a virtual professional? Um, let's start there. Let's start with, you know, where virtual professionals could come into this and really help businesses.
Yeah. I mean, number one, you could get anything administrative can be done. Phone calls, cold calling. I will go into that later. Billing, quoting. I mean, if you just have general information, they can build out quotes, send the quotes, follow up, lead nurture. I mean, I go as deep as like we place engineers in companies. We're saving companies so much money. It's not even funny, but for like, for what you're talking about, if leads are a problem, hire someone that is just jumping on Facebook and getting in all the local groups and adding value to the groups. Doesn't even have to be about junk removal, but encourage people in those, like just every day hitting these groups, boom, 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 as your profile. And that's why you use the remote desktop as your profile there. Hey, oh, that really stinks. I'm really sorry. And then you maybe go look up reviews in the town. And maybe it's a plumbing problem. You go look up reviews in the town, or reach out to you, Lewis, who's the best plumber in your area? You tell them, and they go back and like, hey, I suggest you go to X, Y, and Z. Start referring people in those groups.
So they're engaging as you in the groups
and solving problems for people. Then when things come up and you identify that this is what I do, you're going to start getting referrals like crazy. And so that's just one. Cold calling, it works really well. And I got people making 400 phone calls a day. I've got a guy for a roofing company calling commercial and getting an appointment every week on average for the salesperson. He's an appointment setter, setting an appointment for a salesperson every week. And these are big ticket items. So actually like doing all the research, who is the decision maker? How do I get through the gatekeepers? They spend their time doing that. They call and they're getting huge contracts. Office admin's easy. Reporting, like we have a guy, Mitch, you might know Mitch Smedley. Mitch has a plumbing company, and he has so many KP. Every morning he wakes up and he's got reports of here's what material costs were. Here's where we were compared to yesterday. Like it's so built out. It's all in his VA every night just goes in there and updates every single little detail. And in the morning, he's just got like, he knows exactly where his business is, exactly where it's been, and exactly where it's going. So you can build out processes, especially for these bigger guys that are looking at franchising or want to franchise. Knowing that stuff is you're able to sell so much better because you know every detail, you know material costs, you know gas costs, you know everything. What's the average cost per hour per job? And you know that takes a lot of tedious work. Yeah. Some CRMs kind of help with that, but you still can't dig in. So admin, cold calling, lead nurture, community involvement, podcast editing. A lot of people want to start podcasts, have someone come in, content creation. We've got guys that have video editors. That's all they do is they shoot reels on site. They shoot their video on site and the person just makes things, brands it, and is putting it out. And so the sky's the limit. We're all over the board, but my job with a business owner is to get on the phone, listen, ask the right questions and say, here's what I see as an opportunity. But, for me, it's incredibly important that there's an ROI, either a time ROI, and my greatest joy is a time and money ROI for the owner. But one of those is an absolute must, or it's just not worth it.
Yeah. I would recommend anybody who's on listening, reach out to Scott. I've been on the sales call, right? The consultation. And he's not pushy. I wouldn't have him on the podcast if he was, to be honest.
I'm a horrible
Because,
salesperson.
yeah, he's just
right.
like, okay, cool, what's going on? All right, sweet. We might be able to help with that, right? And so that's how we connected originally. And I was like, this is something that's valuable, and it's definitely outside of what most people think of when they think of how someone could fit into their company in a blue collar sense, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important to delegate to elevate. You can find some incredible people. And Scott's someone who's certainly going to open your eyes to some of that stuff if you get on a call with him.
I'm not going to say this just for your audience sake. I've said this to multiple groups in the last couple of weeks. Blue collar business owners are the absolute best to work with. And I think it's because I'm a lot like that. I built everything from the base up. We're out in the field doing, I've literally dug ditches. I've literally done the things to get a business to where it goes. And I think that work ethic always equates to someone who understands what it takes to make something work. Mm-hmm. And so, I just wanted to add that because I've kind of really evaluated what's my avatar, what's my ideal client. And it's just continually coming back to blue collar businesses where they've learned the trade and then started to duplicate and build are the most exciting.
And there's so much opportunity for the businesses that latch on to the slight edge, right? The slight edge concept. What's the small thing that will give me that leg up? What's this thing that will allow me to have more time to go? Maybe I need more time to go to networking meetings. What would 5 hours extra a week mean to you?
Yeah. And that's the ROI. Like as soon as I got rid of doing all the little things, or as soon as I help a business owner get rid of the little things, we're like, okay, what kind of activities can you get involved in? Are they going to drive business? And there's a lot of them out there that we just don't have the time or effort to do. This last question might be good.
Yeah. What are some topics? Jay Silva is asking, what are some topics, subjects, or bullet points that are covered and outlined in your SOP?
Everything. So I don't know how to express this enough, and I hope I'm answering your question, but you really shouldn't assume that in anything that happens in your business is common knowledge. Even how you like to empty your trailer, even what my dog's making me laugh. Sorry. Even even the way that the trailer is backed into the landfill, wherever you're getting rid of the junk, or even what things you keep to resell. If you're doing that angle of the junk removal business, those need to be SOPs, because, you might not have an SOP in place and you find out that one guy on the job dumped a bike in the bin at the local landfill, and that was a vintage bike that was worth $10K just for the frame. Like literally, there should be an SOP for how to check the value of items that you might think have value. Like, I know it sounds weird and silly, but you can't overlook anything. And really, literally ask yourself this is a litmus test. If I were to hire a new person today, do I have to talk to them? You should talk to them about your core values and general culture things in your business. But as far as processes, can I hand them a book and say, hey, look, read through this and then we'll shadow you, or you'll shadow someone? That should be the process. It's not you walking up to them and say, hey, here's where everything's at. That should all be taken care of, because that 15 minutes it takes you to do that, compounded by everybody you hire, could end up being 20 days of your year. And how much value is 20 days of your year? So these things are so important. Like how to update. Thank you, whoever wrote that. But how to update your webpage with the newest blog post. how to do SEO, how to ask for referrals or ratings on Google. That's important for you guys. You should have a system in place in which every person in your business knows how to ask for ratings in Google. Yeah.
Human resources, videos, photography, keywords, pricing guidance, ads, business development, everything. Joseph's got this down to a science.
Joseph's like my best friend. I haven't even met him.
Yeah. Well, he actually feels the same. He said, "Excellent guest, one of the best you've had."
I feel like we're like weirdo buddies over here with our SOP nerdery. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because it's freedom. And for Joseph, it's the ability to duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. And now he's selling that duplication. The value of an SOP done right and complete, you are literally building a blueprint. If you're successful in your business, you are building a blueprint for success. Yep. If I were to, I'm actually super intrigued in this industry. I'm coaching a guy right now who is doing a startup junk removal. And I actually have pointed him in your direction. But if I were to do this today, everything would be so documented, because within a year, my goal would be to hand that documentation to somebody that I could hire as an owner operator and say, hey, let's do a 50 or 4951. Here's the guide, go do it. And that literally, and then I'm just coaching from a high level, right? Mm-hmm. That's literally what you need to SOP is everything. And it sounds super overwhelming. And if that's the case, then let me hire you a VA, or send you the SOP on creating SOPs, and then make your office staff do it. Make them do it. It is that important. And if they don't want to do it, hire someone that will do it.
What's a way to help get the team? I feel like you have to really buy into it yourself, but what are some ways to buy into it? I'll give you a second here, but Joseph says we may be looking for a virtual assistant soon. Chris was saying the other day he needs one. So Joseph, I think you'd love a conversation with Scott.
Yeah, we'd have a great time.
Yeah.
So the
buy-in from your staff. Yeah.
When I go back to core values, and so what I have to do this every time we hire a virtual professional for somebody, because one of our things is, like I said, when we're onboarding them after they've been hired, I onboard them. We teach them how to do an SOP. We test them on the SOP. They actually have to create an SOP and present it to us. And they actually sign a contract that they'll do SOPs. That's the level of buy-in we're on. So, but we also, here's the messaging. And I do this sometimes one-to-one with people, but on my own team. When a new person comes on, I explain to them, we have SOPs and you need to follow them. If you ever create a new process, which we're doing right now, if you ever create a new process, you need to film it and have an SOP built. And here's the thing. Most people won't do it because they feel like their job is going to be stolen from them. Why do you create SOPs? You create SOPs so that you can replace that person, right? So here's how I do it. I'm like, hey, I need SOPs for everything, but here's what I want you to understand. If you build SOPs for everything you do and you get overwhelmed, you can come to me and say, here's all the things I'm doing. And I can say, okay, you're having to work 60 hours a week to do this. This is ridiculous. I agree. I want you to have a great, lifestyle. What are the SOPs in this stack that you don't like? Oh, okay. I don't like this, this, and this. Okay. Let's create a job description based on those things. And let's recruit specifically for those things. And then we'll just literally take that. Your job is to train that person. If you've done a good job with your SOPs, that means you're like, boom, here you go. Ask me questions after you try everything. We hire, we replicate. Every single person gets that message. Now, that might not be the way that your business is run, but you can always talk to people about, if you've ever wanted to do something in leadership, the best way to do that is to create systems, document them, and be able to lead others through it. And so this is your ladder. This is your way to climb your way up. And so that's one way. The other way is core values. Depending on what your core values are, one of mine is growth. And so I talk about like, hey, we want growth for our clients. We want growth for our company. And I want growth for you. How do you achieve growth? Is you do everything with excellence and share with us how you're doing it with excellence. And then you will be able to grow, and you'll be able to help other people grow as you pull them into your system. So that's how I do it. I wrap it all around core values. And I also talk about the future and how SOPs are the essence of us growing. So this is for you guys too. SOPs and having the right people in the right seats are the essence of you growing. So as you grow your business, and I have to do this with my team all the time. As we grow, guys, there's more money infusion in our company. As there's more money infusion in our company, the more I can pay you. The more I can pay you, the better you can support your family. The more we grow, the more you can refer people you know and love to get jobs with me as well. The more those people have jobs, the greater stability your family has. I mean, I can go on this line forever and ever. You have to paint vision for why it matters.
That's huge. That's huge. I don't see the name pop up on this one on my other screen, but such valuable information. I started my moving and junk removal company 6 months ago and love learning about this stuff. Such valuable stuff. I've been in business 4 years in the current thing, and we're really just getting to the point of turning this stuff into processes. It's much needed. It's overdue, but it's what we've got to do to keep, the level of quality getting continually better in what we do.
Yeah, and like a message to those of you who've been in business for a long time and don't have good SOPs, it's okay. It's totally okay. Start now. Those of you that are early, like 6 months in, what an amazing opportunity for you to start doing them now. And I want to give you guys a little bit of peace. I said I did 8 SOP videos last week. I could have done those 2 years ago. It's just, it's an ongoing growth process to be able to offload things. For a guy who's focused on this, like 6 years of trying, I've built like what I call a personal operating system, where everything becomes systemized and it's not boring, it's cool, where I am the most efficient and I have the most joy in my life possible. I'm still 6 years of this as a student of this, coaching other people through it. I'm still working on it myself. I still had to stop and say, my VA, my EA, my executive assistant finally said, Scott, you need to stop doing this role. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll start recording videos. And then after a week of recording videos, I'm like, this is freaking rad. I did not realize how much joy this was stealing from me. I don't have to chase money anymore. All of that has been taken over. And I had some fear of somebody getting into my Stripe account, like all the money, everything, and looking at my personal budget spreadsheets built in to my company tracking spreadsheet. And so I was like, oh, I want her to do company tracking, but I don't want her to see my personal. And I finally just had a talk with her. I said, hey, look, you're going to see how much I pay myself. You're going to see how much everything costs. And I just want you to know that I'm putting my trust in you. She goes, Scott, I don't think you're paying yourself enough, because the more you're paying yourself, the better our company's doing. That's all I care about. I was like, oh, so all this time doing this, I still had to get over these things. And just this 1 week of that happening has created so much more time for me. It's crazy, because it was not each of those things. It took me like 5 minutes to do, but every time you do something, you switch a task, you lose 20% productivity. Just switching from reading a text to an email actually can affect you 20%. And then switching from that to filling out a report is another 20. That's not a 20% loss. You switch 3 times, that's up to 6. That's now at 60% time loss. You compound that over a day, you're probably actually working to about a fourth of your capacity.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's weird, but it's true.
Wow. Scott, this has been fun. This has been really fun. What is the best way for people to find you? Because I know we've got several people in here that I think that want to be reaching out. PJ and Joseph for sure mentioned it right off.
Very cool. I apologize. My website, I just got my new logo done, so we're like no website right now. I have a phenomenal web builder. She's getting started next week. But the best way is Facebook at Scott Rammage, or Instagram. And it's Rammage. It sounds like damage, but it has 2 M's. So it's Rammage. And I'll send you a link. And just like Lewis said, I probably should hire a salesman, but I love doing it. And I know I don't close as much as I could because I'm not pushy. And so even if you just want to get on and talk about where your business is and where, like, you might not have money to do anything. I talked to someone today. It's like, hey, Scott, I just want to be up front with you. I'm probably a year out. I'm like, cool. Let's talk about what's going on. and what kind of things you're doing, so I can give you a vision of how to move away from those things in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm totally cool with that. But Scott Rammage, my email is scott@mediamachine.info. Media Machine's the parent company. I own a podcast production company. I own another business, still that VAs for gyms business. And then I have Hire VP. So thank you for putting that in the combo. And then, but yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Just shoot me a message. I'd love to talk.
Awesome. And did you jump into the group as well?
Did I?
Well, just make sure you are, and then you can just tag yourself in the comments.
I would love to.
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that.
Awesome. Someone's asking, will there be a recording of this? I'd love to watch from start to finish. Yes, so it's actually on YouTube. It's also in the group. So as soon as this finishes up, it'll be in those two places, Vladimir, and then it'll be going on the podcast. I think we're about 2 months out. I have and my executive assistant finally catching up. I was a year behind on uploading to the podcast to the podcast platforms. I had them going live on Facebook and YouTube, but I was quite behind. So you can find them; they'll be live there. But someone else is asking, what are the things that help you most with focus and energy beside diet and exercise?
Oh, diet and exercise. So I'm gonna get again preachy on you. I found that when I woke up in the mornings, some people wake up in the mornings and they're on top of the world. They feel like they can conquer everything. I wake up in the mornings and I feel like I'm going to fail that day. Like literally all of the things rush in of like, I could lose my business. Something's going to happen. So what I started doing every morning, I'm a man of faith, so I read the Bible first thing, but then I go outside, I ruck, I wear weight on me, and I go 45 minutes. And the first 15 minutes of that, after some worship music, the first 15 minutes is gratitude. Literally 15 minutes, and I say it out loud, things that I'm grateful for. You cannot lose in your day if you start with gratitude. Gratitude journaling's good, but like I've taken it to the extreme, and like every day is like dialed, because all I've done is I've gone through all the amazing things. I'm like, holy crap. Okay. Who cares if that falls apart? I've got the people and the processes and everything in place where I can win. And so daily exercise, great nutrition and gratitude. And then you have got to put time aside. I'm not talking about quantity of time. You know, some spouses want us, or you know, our people want us to spend tons of time. It's about quality of time. So even if I'm working 16-hour days, I'm going to have an hour where I am not distracted and all I'm doing is listening to my partner, my wife, because that connection fuels us in a 100% different way. That's an emotional intimacy that a lot of us guys don't know we need, but women really need it. So when you do that with your wife, you're literally filling up her tank really fast. And typically that's just listening and just
letting her talk.
Yeah. So yeah, I am going to spend more than 1 hour a day with my family because my values put that above my work, but it's not always possible when you're building. So have really clear communication with your family that when I'm here, I am present. Put your phone away, get out of your own head and put your time with them, and you will get that time back in tenfold.
That's huge. That's huge. I love it. Well, Scott, you've given me some things I need to be working on. This has been helpful for me as a listener and an engager here. Guys, appreciate you jumping in on the comments. This was a very active, very engaging time with everybody jumping in here. So a lot of fun for us to kind of discuss. And Scott, you brought the fire. This is right. A much needed thing. And I think it's a Black Panther that we all try to avoid in the dark alley. Right. and we're 5 years into it and we're like, man, I have no time. And I thought it was going to be giving me freedom. And,
right.
You know, and then it's because we're doing the same thing. We're still building 5 years in and we're not letting someone else do that. So Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you speaking into the group, and just a pleasure to chat. So guys, we'll see you next time. Get in touch with Scott, and Scott, just hang around and we'll chat a bit before we leave.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. Great questions.
All right. Talk soon, guys. Cheers.